Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani with Rudy's Common Sense. This episode will remind me of something my favorite American philosopher once said. Deja vu all over again. Of course, that was Yogi Berra. And here's the deja vu all over again. Hunter Biden is under investigation by the United States government. What a surprise. Gosh, the last time I said that, I was accused of being a Russian agent. I was. Russian disinformation. But now it turns out to be true. Not only that, it was true a year ago. Even when I said it, it was true. When they were attacking me for being a Russian agent. Try to explain. I have the evidence, documents, witnesses, checks, money laundering, you name it, we can prove it. But here's what I want to focus on today, because there could be a big, long story, and it's going to go on for quite some time, because I know the length and depth of it. This was thrust on my lap about 2 years ago, the course of my investigating for President Trump. I had to learn it. I had to learn it in detail. It's a scandal of massive proportions. And I'm going to begin and end with the following warning, because the crooked, big tech, big media, crooked Democratic Party, and all their sycophants are going to try to make Hunter Biden the scapegoat. Hunter Biden is at the bottom of the totem pole. He's just a little guy in this. He's the guy that collects the money. He's the guy that's the bag man. We have a big guy in this. We even call him the big guy, just in case there's any doubt about who this is about and who the crimes are about and who the major beneficiary of the crimes have been for the last 30 years. Don't let them pawn this off on Hunter Biden. His father, his family have done enough to ruin his life. Now they want to ruin it for good so they can enjoy the benefits of the presidency, which for them really means greed. So let's just see if we can put this in perspective. It's going to be very brief because there are a lot of facts that come in under this, and I don't want to go into all of them yet because it'll just be a reminder of what we've been talking about for the last 2 years. And you're going to see the cynical, absolutely un-American, socialist, communist, Nazi-style repression and censorship that's been imposed on this country. And some of us have taken it. I mean, 3 months ago, you couldn't mention Biden hard drive without being accused of being a Russian agent or a something or other, insane, crazy. I have it. I have the hard drive. I've watched the whole thing. I've transcribed the whole thing. I know it. It's in my head. Let me summarize it for you neatly. It's a well-packaged, overwhelming racketeering case against the Biden crime family for crimes committed over the last 30 years in the sale of public office. Covered up because it was deprived him of the presidency. But the one thing it is not, it's not really an indictment of Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is being investigated now for tax evasion. $400,000 in tax evasion. The money that he got from the crooked Ukrainian oligarch. He didn't bother to report it. That's about the least of the crimes committed by the Biden crime family. He's also under investigation for money laundering. That one I have him cold. I've shown it to you 4 or 5 times. The media doesn't pay attention to it. The New York Times doesn't pay attention to it. The prosecutors didn't pay attention to it. It's a document, nice and clear, $14 million money laundering involving Hunter Biden. That's a little bigger crime. $14 million, starting to talk about real money now, right? And then we have the Biden involvement in the bribery of Poroshenko and bribery to help his boss, Zlochevsky, get out from under the $5 billion case and the extortion that they engaged in. So I'm telling you this because Hunter Biden is a apparatchik. And the Democrat Party, the Biden family, are going to try to put it on Hunter. They're going to say, oh, just a little tax evasion. We'll take a nice little count for tax evasion, and then we'll get away with the $40 or $50 million that over 30 years we stole while we were in public office, which is why we've been able to live like kings and queens on public salary, on your taxpayers' dollars. The tragedy of this is that it's coming out now, after the election. And then we hear from Barr and others, oh, it couldn't have been brought out a little bit earlier because it had been too close to the election. None of that flies, ladies and gentlemen. None of it. This could have been brought out. This could have been brought out in October of 2018. A lawyer by the name of Bud Cummings went to the Justice Department and delivered to the Justice Department sufficient evidence alleging that Joe Biden was involved in a corrupt scheme in Ukraine with the crookedest man in the Ukraine in order to get the man out of the case that he was involved in, and the bribe constituted payment to his son for a no-show job. It also alleged that Biden was involved in helping the Democrat Party acquire dirty information on Trump, Manafort, and several others to help Hillary Clinton, and with the assistance of Ukrainian officials and our ambassador and the embassy in Ukraine. These facts were brought to the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, a gentleman by the name of Berman, by Bud Cummings, a former Assistant United States Attorney of good repute. Cummings outlined it in an email that we have a copy of, and all that was ignored. It was never investigated, despite the fact there were allegations of corruption against a former sitting vice president of the United States, allegations of corruption involving the highest levels of the United States government and the Ukrainian government. Instead, the Southern District decided to pursue Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen and hold raids at 4 o'clock in the morning at a home with children and break into a lawyer's office, which sounds almost unthinkable in an America with civil rights. Instead of investigating corruption at the highest levels of two governments, they're investigating some kind of pornography, just so they could try to make President Trump look bad, and it turned out to be nothing. And then even though it was over, they never pursued this. That was October 2018, long before this election. It could have been investigated then. It could have been determined then if it was true or false. There were 5 witnesses willing to come and testify that Joe Biden had paid a bribe to the president of Ukraine, the most crooked man in the Ukraine, Poroshenko, on behalf of the second most crooked man, Zlochevsky. Oh, you could say they were corrupt, they were lying, these witnesses, they were this, they were that. I don't know, 3/4 of the cases I ever made as an assistant U.S. attorney, the people I put on the witness stand were criminals, former liars, in some cases murderers. Who do you think knows about bribes? Priests? Holy men? Crooks. And they turn. And then you have corroboration, like Joe Biden on tape admitting the bribery, admitting the quid pro quo. Like documents showing the $14 million money laundering that nobody wanted to look at. Wouldn't even print it in the New York Times. It's a flat-out case of money laundering involving the Biden family. Then a document showing $900,000 personally going to Joe Biden when he was vice president. Looks a lot like a bribe to me. Nobody wanted to look at it. Instead, they wanted to attack me. I was doing this in order to hurt Biden's chances of being president. Are they crazy? I was doing this a year and a half before the election, months before he even announced. I was doing it because it was brought to me by Ukrainians who said it would help vindicate President Trump of the phony charge of the Russian collusion, because the collusion took place in Ukraine and Hillary paid for it. Hillary was the one colluding with Russia. Hillary was the one colluding with Ukraine. Biden was helping her. And George Soros was helping to cover it up. Those were the allegations. And now it's time to take a short break. I accomplished a lot in 2020 exposing the truth, establishing the relationship with you, working tirelessly for America. And I came to know the work and value of the people at American Hartford Gold. You see, you buy gold not only for what you know, but you buy gold for what you don't know. American Hartford Gold is the company you can trust when it comes to buying gold. They sell physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside of your IRA. In the precious metals industry, they are the highest rated firm in our country with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. Give them a call and tell them Rudy sent you. And be sure to ask them what I bought. And if you call them right now, they will give you up to $1,500 of free silver on your first order. Folks, these are uncertain times. The one thing you can count on to protect what you have worked so hard for is physical gold and silver. So don't wait. Call them now. Call 833-GOLD-777. That's 833-GOLD-777. Or text Rudy to 65532. Again, that's 833-GOLD-777. Or text Rudy to 65532. Thank you for returning. Well, the Justice Department wouldn't do anything with it. My witnesses were afraid to go to the Justice Department. They've been turned away by the Justice Department, turned away by the FBI. They had seen a corrupt FBI agent fix a case against Manafort. So they came to me. They said they trusted me. So I took their testimony. I memorialized it. I have it on tape. I turned it over to a reporter so it would be public. I thought we would get the benefit of it being public. And the public would go crazy when it heard about this corruption. But no. The crooked media came down on us. We were making this up. We were making it up. It was Russian disinformation. Except it was all true. It was all on tape. It was all in documents. It was all in banks. It was provable. And I offered to try the case myself and prove it in 6 months. I know a little something about racketeering cases. And this was a heck of a racketeering case that got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Then when that failed to get the attention of the FBI and the Justice Department, so they would investigate this long before there was an election, I brought it to the State Department. And I turned it over to the Secretary of State and his Inspector General. And I was promised it would be investigated, and not a single person was interviewed. That was March. That was in March of 2019. Not a single person was interviewed. And then the crazy, insane, false, lying whistleblower who had been involved in trying to frame the president from 4 years earlier, except no one would reveal his identity because everyone knew what a slime he was and what a bias he had and what a liar Schiff is. Then we had to deal with that. But I still felt this has to be investigated. This has to be investigated. These are crimes. These are major bribes. Millions of dollars in bribes. And now it was emerging that the whole thing was a pattern by the Biden family. Every time Joe was a point man, the Biden family got wealthy. Obama names him point man in Iraq. James Biden gets 1/3 of a $1.5 billion housing contract. He knows nothing about housing. Joe gets appointed in Ukraine as point man. Hunter gets anywhere from $10 to $14 million for a no-show job that he knows nothing about, while Joe bribes the president of Ukraine to let the crookedest man in Ukraine out of the $5 billion case that he was in and the criminal case that he was in. And then they get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife, one of Putin's closest allies, who helped to undercut her husband and get him thrown out of office. Nice woman she is. And then he got $1 million, $2 million or so from Kazakhstan and money from Romania. And gosh, I'm going to miss a few until we get to the big score. The big score, which now becomes not only bribery, not only extortion, not only conflict of interest, but boy, we're getting close to espionage now. And that is when Joe Biden brings Hunter over to China on Air Force Two, and Joe fails in his negotiations with China, as he uniformly always did. And Hunter got the prize, a $1 billion commitment to his useless, ridiculous, completely non-functioning private equity fund, which grows to $1.5 billion. In other words, the son of the vice president becomes a partner with the government of China against whom his father is negotiating, and nobody covers it. No one in the Obama administration cares. No one in the New York Times cares. No one in the Washington Post cares. No one in Washington cares. Tell me that's not a sellout of the United States. Tell me if that were Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr., it wouldn't have been jumped on immediately and immediately become a national security investigation, as it should. We're negotiating with probably our biggest adversary in the world. We're using the vice president of the United States, and his son got $1.5 billion from China for a private equity fund, including John Kerry's stepson and Whitey Bulger's nephew. What has happened to us? How corrupt have we become? How corrupt have we become in the name of protecting the highest echelons of the Democrat Party? How corrupt have we become in our hatred of Donald Trump, so we will suppress any evidence that might help him, even if it's critical to saving the United States? Can you see how sick hatred can become? And if this 4 years doesn't illustrate that, it doesn't illustrate anything. Well, there are a lot more transactions with China, and they're starting to come out now, but let me take you to the last one, because the last one is the one that's the most relevant, because I do not see how this man can assume the presidency. I don't even see how he could pass a security clearance. I'm talking about Joe Biden. Remember, this case is not about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is here. Joe Biden is here. Joe Biden's the boss. Hunter Biden's the little cog that Joe has been pushing everything off on all his life and destroying his life and making him not only a worse drug addict, but a completely degenerate drug addict. Man can't function without crack. So he gets involved in a deal with the Chinese communists. When I say he, I mean Hunter, James, Sarah Biden, and somebody known as the boss. And when it first comes up, their partner, James Gilliar, says he's going to ask Joe to look over the docs because he knows so much about China. We're trying to figure out if Joe is part of this deal. And then we have a memo here to Tony Bobulinski, who I think you've seen testify. This is in writing. I want you to see this. It's in writing. This is dated May 13, 2017, and it lays out the remuneration package. Who's going to get paid by the Chinese communists? That's basically it. And first of all, they're going to get paid. They're going to get paid through Azerbaijan and Luxembourg. Just a little detail. And here's the breakdown of the distribution: 20% to H, 20% to RW, 20% to JG, 20% to TB, 10% to Jim. That's Jim Biden. And here's the nice one: 10 held by H for the big guy. So H has got 20% up here. That's Hunter. Then he's got 10% for the big guy. Any comments or disagreements? Let's table now. Well, just in case you can't figure out who's big guy, I searched through the hard drive and I found two references. One goes way back to March 6, 2013. It's from a man named Jeff Rogers to Robert Biden, speaking about his father. Big night in Leipzig. The big guy made them happy. Jeff. Vice President Joe Biden stopped by. The big guy. Just in case you have any doubt who the big guy is, getting the 10%, who's sharing in the money from the Chinese communists. Here's another one back in 2010. Say you talk to me and that you want to get all the facts before we talk to the big guy. This will be good for both of us, referring to Joe Biden. This would be a good time to take a short break. If you want a good cigar, go to a good cigar shop. You want the best, go to Famous Smoke Shop. Let Famous Smoke deliver your favorite cigars right to your doorstep at America's lowest prices. Famous opened in 1939 as a small shop in New York City. Today, it's the largest privately held American-owned cigar business in the country. That's 80 years experience in the cigar business, and they're putting that experience to work for you, making deals on the cigars you love, from affordable, everyday smokes to high-end luxury cigars for your next special occasion. Go to famous-smoke.com/Rudy and click the Activate button to apply the promo code. Pick from more than 1,000 cigar brands, fresh and ready to ship from Famous Smoke's climate-controlled, 24,000 square foot humidor. Check out with the promo code RUDY20. That's Rudy, R-U-D-Y, 20, and get $20 off your order. Every cigar purchase you make is backed by the Famous Freshness Guarantee. Get real cigars from a real cigar shop, shipped direct to you from Famous Smoke Shop. Go to famous-smoke.com/Rudy. That's famous-smoke.com/Rudy. Welcome back. Now, if you want to get the idea of what's going on here, this is a deal, two-part deal. The Biden crime family on the one side, like they were the Biden crime family in Iraq, Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, MSNBA Bank, et cetera, et cetera. Here, this is the outline of the deal. My understanding is that the original agreement with the director, which is with Mr. Ying Ming, who is a leading member of the Chinese Communist Party and an intelligence operative of the Chinese Communist Party, and his partner here in the United States is Gongwin Dan, who has this memo from Robert Biden. So my understanding is that the original agreement with the directors was for consulting fees based on introductions alone at a rate of $10 million per year for a 3-year guarantee total of $30 million. The chairman changed that deal after we met in Miami to a much more lucrative deal to create a holding company 50% owned by me and 50% owned by him. Consulting fees is one piece of our income stream. But the reason this proposal by the chairman was so much more interesting to me and my family is that we would also be partners in the equity and profits. That's the 10% H held for Joe. So that outlines the deal to Gungwon Dung. Okay? Gungwon Dung is a Chinese communist spy. And then they're getting ready to go and join their offices together, the Biden crime family and the Chinese Communist Party. Isn't that nice? They're going to have an office together. So from Hunter Biden to Cecilia Browning, who's putting the office together, please have keys made available for new office mates. Joe Biden, Jill Biden, Jim Biden, Gungwon Dung. Yi Jinming, who is the intelligence operative of the Chinese Communist Party, who was the partner putting in most of the money. Do I need to prove to you any more that Joe Biden was a partner with the Chinese communists? Do I really? And just in case Tony Bobolinsky, who has testified to all of this, gets a little note from James Gilliard, they're getting a little nervous. They say, don't mention Joe being involved. It's only when you are face to face. Why wouldn't they want to mention Joe being involved if it wasn't criminal? You know why. Because it was criminal. And when Bobolinsky asks the big guy, the boss of the crime family, how does he get away with it? He says plausible deniability. Otherwise meaning lying. Now, just in case you think this was a one-off, it is quite obvious that Hunter is getting disgusted with the way he's being used. He should be kind of disgusted right now with the way he's being used as a scapegoat. And he's writing to his daughter on January 3rd, 2019. Now, you can read the whole text at your leisure, but here is the poignant and critical part that describes 30 years of criminality and what common sense would tell you was the case, given all the homes that Biden owns, given the wealth that he has, and given how little money he made in public office. The man lives the life of a multimillionaire on a senator's salary. How? Well, we don't know how. But just in case, it's written by his son. This is his son to his son's daughter, Hunter. I love all of you, but I don't receive any respect, and that's fine, I guess. Works for you, apparently. I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard. But don't worry, unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. But don't worry, unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. Who's the top of the totem pole? Who is the top of the totem pole? Who was this all for? Whose lives were ruined so he could be wealthy, rich, powerful? Didn't help, didn't improve his IQ. He was always stupid. It sure as heck didn't improve his morality. He plagiarized in college and law school. He plagiarized as a senator. Lies every day now. This is a career of crime. This is a career of crime that disgustingly, corruptly was kept from you during the election. It could be the worst thing I can think of done in American history. I can't imagine how these people who did it can look at an American flag or can look at themselves in the mirror. There's not a question about the fact that Joe Biden took bribes over many, many, many years. That he's a plagiarizer, a liar, a man who took terrible advantage of his son. No father, not even a crooked father, would use his son as a bag man with some of the worst criminals in the world if his son had an addiction problem. and he cared about his son. You can always find some bum in Washington to do it for you. We're in a terrible situation in this country because of our corrupt big tech, big media, big companies, involvement and infiltration from China. I mean, just how deep does this go? How deep does China go with the Bidens? They're into them for millions. They got photographs of the Bidens that would knock your socks off. I'm not even sure that's an expression that means anything anymore. But they have photographs of the Bidens that intelligence services spend their lives trying to acquire so they can jam you up. And they have the Bidens jammed up so far that China owns the Bidens. And now we see with Sewell and Senator Feinstein and the way in which Nancy Pelosi handled China, covering it up, just how much does China own? Well, we're going to have to find out. This has got to come out for the good of the American people. It has nothing to do with just Donald Trump or Joe Biden, or has to do with the integrity and the national security of the United States of America. This is extraordinarily serious. It may in fact be the worst and most serious scandal in our history. So remember, there's just one thought from today's. Hunter Biden is the bottom of the totem pole. Don't let them fool you and stick it on Hunter Biden. They've been doing that for 30 years. This is all about the boss, the big guy, Joe Biden. He's the number one criminal. He's the boss of the crime family. And this should result, if we have any fairness and justice in this country, in a major racketeering prosecution of the Biden crime family. Doesn't matter who they are or what they are, they're not above the law. Thank you.